So the Eagles game for the Raiders just got more interesting, with the latest weather forecast calling for a bit of snow and wind. Granted, it shouldn't be an excuse, and neither should be the fact that Philly won't have Lane Johnson. Actually, it's sounding like there could be multiple offensive linemen in jeopardy of missing the game. However, as concerning as that might be, what owner Jeffrey Lurie admitted following the Chargers loss was kind of unexpected but very much needed. So let's talk about what he said, why it's not time to give up on the birds, and everything else. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Alright, I said on my last video I would be giving away tickets to the Raiders game, so here we go. Congrats to Snugga Bull Frenchies for winning the tickets via the randomized spinner for their comment in the last video. Bro, I just gotta hear from you soon so that I can get the tickets to you for this weekend's game. You know the drill, just email me at thephillyspecialshow@gmail.com or DM me on one of the socials. For everyone else, feel free to comment on this video because if I don't hear from Snugga Bull Frenchies in the next day or two, I'm going to have to give them to somebody else because the game is right around the corner, and I'm going to pick the most liked comment in this video. Now, if you are going, then just be sure to bundle up because it's going to be cold AF on Sunday. In fact, the current weather forecast for the Eagles and Raiders game is calling for temps in the 20s with a real feel in the teens and wind gusts up to 25 miles per hour, on top of the potential for 1 to 3 inches of snow.
Oh, please, not again.
I know, it's been quite a while since the Birds have had just a fairly normal game in terms of the weather. However, it's December, and it's still not an excuse, and Philly should be able to take care of business rather easily. But yeah, should. The real question is, will they? Anyway, I brought up several reasons to still have hope on the last video, and there's actually something that Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie said that gave me more hope. Although before I get to that, I gotta give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek. Because the only way I was able to make the Raiders giveaway happen was courtesy of SeatGeek, one of the season-long sponsors. And remember, as one of the season-long sponsors, I'm going to be giving away 2 Eagles tickets to 1 subscriber after every Eagles win. So assuming they beat the Raiders, come hang out or check out the game recap video on Monday or Tuesday. Get entered for those tickets there because they should be able to take care of business, and I'll give away 2 tickets. Of course, SeatGeek wants to make sure everyone wins, so not only are they contributing to that, but they're also giving all Philly Special Show subscribers 10% off your next set of tickets when you use my code SPECIAL10. Which, by the way, if you were thinking about seeing the Birds play this year, then you might want to consider the game on Sunday. I mean, take a look at the prices on SeatGeek, and it's pretty much the lowest that it's been all season, probably for the last couple of years. You've got upper deck seats that are just barely over $100. Even lower level, I mean, there's ones for $220 on the lower level. So go ahead, take out your phone, open up the app, and add code SPECIAL10 to your account. Honestly, their app makes it super easy. It's one of the easiest to sort by event, and they put all the tickets in one place with the best deals coming up first. Plus, as you can see, each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, with it being super easy to find thanks to the green dots. Just saying, there's a reason SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app and now season-long sponsor of the channel. So, kudos to SeatGeek for the insane season-long giveaways. And remember, if you want to support the channel while getting a discount on your next set of tickets, then make sure to use my code SPECIAL10. Also, no worries if you don't have the app yet. I've got a link in the description that can help you get started. I get that it's not for everyone, but personally, I love cold weather games in the elements. And like I said, it shouldn't be an excuse for the offense. Heck, we're talking about the Raiders, who have been one of the worst teams in just about every metric you can think of, and certainly when you're looking at the offensive side of the ball. Yet based on what we've seen from Philly this season, and especially since the bye week, it wouldn't totally shock me if this game is much closer than it needs to be. Since following the Chargers game, the Eagles are now 24th in total yards per game, 22nd in rushing yards, 22nd in passing, 26th in first downs, and 28th on third down.
Not great, Bob.
Look, regardless of if you're saying that Jalen Hurts is the answer or is not, you gotta at least give him some credit for being willing to take some of the responsibility or the accountability on that side and not being afraid to fall on the sword. As he said Wednesday, that he needs to be more detailed and more focused to take everything to another level.
There's 2 perspectives you can look at it. It's a perspective first of looking inward and saying, how can I be on the right track when I'm in the run game? How can I take the right steps in the right line mark? How can I have the right technique? How am I playing with the right fundamentals to run the way I want to run and then throw the way I want to throw, give an accurate ball, give an advanceable ball, and just play fast and play that type of ball I want to play. Then there's the other side of it where you say, okay, it takes all 11. And everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody has to hold their end of the rope to go out there and have the output or outcome that we all desire.
This is well known by now, but the Eagles are the highest paid offense in the NFL, yet somehow they only have the 19th best points per game. Meanwhile, Hurts ranks number 21 in the NFL in EPA per dropback, and FYI, Jalen's ranked in the top 14 in each of his 4 seasons as a starter. But since Week 10, QB1 has actually fallen to 25th in terms of EPA per dropback, resulting in Hurts with his lowest EPA since 2020.
And I almost didn't recognize him.
Obviously, a new offensive coordinator who is inexperienced and doesn't exactly know what he's doing makes it nearly impossible. Plus an O-line that's not top 10 in run or pass blocking for the first time since 2020, Saquon Barkley having 1.5 yards less than expected per rush, and an offense with the most penalties per game since 2020. And that's not including a predictable route tree, receivers dropping the football, and the highest 3-and-out rate in a decade. Yeah, it's bad from a whole lot of respects. Although what's fairly obvious is that the Eagles aren't going to change offensive coordinators until the season is over. So with that being the case, here's where I'm at. At this point, something's got to change. And the immediate change, or one of the biggest ones you could go to, is to help the offense here, Jalen's got to get back to being a legit dual-threat quarterback. Like, I'm not even saying a whole lot of designed runs, although those would be good, but just the threat of running, changing up the game, putting the defense kind of on its heels, or at least having them account for the thought or the possibility of Jalen running and being aggressive, would change up a little bit. Heck, you see guys like Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and even Justin Herbert on Monday night. I mean, not all of them are faster than Jalen, but they've 100% made the defense pay for not containing them in the pocket this season. Who knows if we see it, but Hurts did sound open to it when asked about the possibility.
I think it comes down to finding ways to win. And so being able to find ways to win in multiple ways is what I think about first. And, winning comes through the change of coaching, maybe how a scheme evolves through that coaching change, and how things are delivered and what those strategies are in the midst of the game. But right now it's just about finding ways to go out there and find a way to win the game. And so I don't look at that and reflect on one area of my or everyone's game. It's a matter of getting it done.
Someone asked the head coach of the defending Super Bowl champions if they were going to bench their quarterback. By the way, that quarterback's 4th in the NFL in touchdowns right now. 4th, behind Stafford, Josh Allen, and Dak Prescott. And we're going, should we bench the quarterback? Like he's the only person who's not playing up to their level? Saquon Barkley is one of 2 running backs that have over 50 carries this year that have gone for either no yards or negative yards. Is that because Saquon can't play anymore? Or is it all connected? This offensive line's not playing good enough. There was a predictability. The play calling hasn't necessarily been great, although I thought it was much better on Monday night. There's been a lack of connection with the receivers. 4 interceptions the other night. 2 of them are because of the receivers. And we're asking a guy, and this has become, which again blows my mind. I was probably the most critical person of Jalen Hurts early in his career. He has gone to the playoffs 4 times. He's gone to the Super Bowl twice. He's won the Super Bowl once. And he was the MVP of the Super Bowl. And 10 months later from doing that, we're going, do you think we should bench the quarterback? I believe Jalen Hurts, before Monday night, had thrown 1 interception since October. 1, I think it was on November 1st. And we're saying, should we bench the quarterback? Do you know how stupid of a question that is?
To be fair, winning cures all. And I totally get this. I saw some comments on the live stream. I understand. Winning cures all. Some of the nitpicking, or a lot of the nitpicking that we're doing, would it even be brought up if the Eagles were winning games? Maybe. If the offense was performing and the Eagles were winning games, then yeah, that's kind of a moot point there. But at the same time, it surely wouldn't have some of the crazies that are going as far to the extreme of saying QB1 needs to be benched. But I will say, to keep things in perspective, for those wanting to give up on Jalen Hurts after a series of poor performances, just take a look at Baker Mayfield. I mean, Mayfield was the clear MVP favorite through 5 or 6 games this season. Throwing 10 touchdowns, only 1 interception, over 1,200 passing yards, and a 65% completion percentage. Which, sure, the Bucs suffered a handful of injuries that made Baker's life more difficult, but even as he's gotten some weapons back, Tampa's offense is struggling with a new OC. Just saying, take a look at how quickly the narrative can change for another signal caller.
I was talking about Baker Mayfield as the MVP through the first 5 weeks of the season because all he was doing was winning games in the final moments when they were either tied or trailing. As a matter of fact, the first 4 wins of the season for the Buccaneers were when the Bucs were tied or trailing in the final minute of regulation. And each and every one of them. And Baker, on the razor's edge, just took that razor's edge and shivved everybody with it.
There's another dude who's been straight fire every single week this season. And that dude, of course, is my dude, Baker Mayfield, a.k.a. the NFL MVP through 6 weeks. I don't even have a runner-up.
You start the season out, he looked so decisive. He knew where to go with the football. The ball came out. He made some plays with his legs. I would say over this last month, he's looked indecisive. If that first option has not been available, sometimes it looks as if he almost creates his own pressure. He just looks very uncomfortable. He's that chemistry he had early in the season with Ibuka, that seems to have begun. I think it's a combination of many things. Usually that's the case.
It's like Jaelan said on Wednesday, being great is not linear. There's ups and downs. Unfortunately, having an inexperienced OC makes that even more difficult. Although I still maintain that this is not the 2023 collapse all over again. One, because the Eagles' defense has only given up 9 touchdowns since the bye. By the way, just one team, the Vikings, have given up fewer in 5 games. And 2, regardless of how the offense is played, Vic Fangio's defense has kept the Birds in nearly every single game this season. Come on, they're giving up just 17.2 points per game since the bye week. But here's where we're at. The Eagles are 8-5, and realistically, the best hope for Philly is being carried by that defense and just hope that the offense can be average. I know, it's not ideal, but once again, the tape from the Chargers game has a lot of people talking.
4 strong concepts. They had flood concepts. They had concepts. They had concepts that present defined reads and throws for the quarterback. It was the best game of the season in terms of what they did in the pass game from a concept standpoint. It's easy after the fact because of 4 turnovers to say he played poorly. And I think we accept that he'll miss a few things, just that he doesn't throw it. That's just who he is. That part of who he is will not change at this point in his career. I actually did not think he played badly. It's easy to say, people listening might think, what are you, out of your mind? And it's easy after the fact to say that. But, I thought the 28-yard throw he made to Smith in overtime was his best throw of the season. Most pass games, when you watch a pass game that's good, it's a combination of the concepts and the quarterback executing the concepts. We tend to look at, the quarterback played great if he completes balls. But a lot of times those balls are completed because the concepts present clean, defined throws just about any NFL quarterback theoretically could make. So there's always some plays where you go, wow, that's a great throw, no matter who it is, whether it's, the guys we think of as great, the Mahomes, the Allens, the Burrows. But, there's a lot of times, where it's defined for the quarterback and pretty much any NFL quarterback can make those throws. So it's always a combination of the pass game concepts and the quarterback. And in this game, because there were pass game concepts that were really NFL concepts, Hurts made some throws.
Look, I can't fault you if you're saying, yeah, but Josh, this offense has forever to go because, yeah, they still do. However, the difference so far as opposed to 2023 is that you don't have the finger pointing from the players or passive-aggressive comments being made in the locker room. Remember, let's not forget, by the time the Eagles lost to Seattle in 23, pretty much all hell had broken loose with defensive players calling guys selfish and sack-chasing. While offensively, multiple players had fired subtle shots toward Nick Sirianni and or Brian Johnson. Plus, I think the biggest sign of optimism for me was hearing what Jeffrey Lurie said after the Chargers game. With the Athletic's Michael Silver capturing the encounter 30 minutes after the loss to the Chargers, where Lurie actually went over to Cooper DeJean to offer some encouragement. Telling Coop that he has zero concerns, that yes, there were a lot of turnovers, but that some of those were flukes. And then when later asked if the string of losses were beginning to feel like 2023, Lurie said no, it's nothing like it. In fact, you may think that's crazy, but he doubled down to say it's the absolute opposite. Thanks to a Super Bowl defense and great special teams and the players being bought in, while also admitting he fully believes the offense will get it going and isn't worried in the slightest.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
Okay, knee-jerk reaction, not worried at all, really? Like, are we watching the same offense here? At the same time, you come away from it multiple days, having talked about that film, showing the breakdowns that we have, and Lurie is clearly behind the scenes, knows more than we actually do. We're all concerned. I think that is justified. But if he's still holding out hope somehow for this season, and I don't think that's just a comment to say, oh, well, we're going to be fine because of in the offseason bringing a new offensive coordinator. I think he legit has hope. Then you know what? I will at least sign up to believe that for one more week. And by the way, it wasn't Lurie who was alone in that belief either. With Devontae Smith saying it's nowhere close to 2023, Saquon Barkley echoing the same sentiment, and several other players on both sides of the ball saying the same. Of course, having a championship-level defense changes everything, but as long as they're still bought in and behind the offense, then it's not totally lost. Anyway, while we continue to hope and pray that the offense finds itself, how about a little love for the defense? I mean, Jordan Davis has been one of the most consistent and productive players all season. Get this, averaging 42 snaps per game this year after only playing 24 snaps per game previously. And most impressively, he's 7th among interior linemen with 4.5 sacks, which is more than he had in his first 3 seasons combined. On top of 6 pass breakups, 7 tackles for loss, and 6 quarterback hits, while also emerging as a leader as well.
He has in his own way. You know, Jordan is really a fun guy to be around. Good personality, likes being here, comes to work, enjoys work. Yeah, he has emerged as somewhat of a leader.
Yeah, JD's going to get paid, and he absolutely deserves it. Of course, shout out to Reuben Frank for some of the other numbers, but we can't forget about Moro Ojomo, because he's had a true breakthrough season in his first year as a full-time player. Since out of 96 interior linemen who've played at least 300 snaps, Ojomo's Pro Football Focus rating is the 9th highest. And fine, you take those gradings with a grain of salt, but he's played the most snaps of any Eagles defensive lineman, has 4 sacks, 8 quarterback hits, and 4 tackles for loss. And then there's also Jalyx Hunt after a little bit of a slow start, but he's got 4.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 13 quarterback hits in the last 7 games. Plus, the linebackers are also insane and have been playing incredibly well all season long. After all, anytime you have a first-round pick who can barely see the field, he actually played well and can barely see the field in Jahan Campbell, kind of tells you or speaks volumes into what's actually happening there. Anyway, the most impressive for me, though, is what Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell are doing. Like, Coop is unequivocally the best slot corner in the NFL, because only the Eagles and Jaguars allow negative total EPA on slot targets this season. Yet you take a look at the graphic, and Philly is over 3 times as dominant as the second-place Jacksonville. Coop is also first in run defense grade, first in coverage grade, first in passer rating allowed, and tied for first in the fewest passing touchdowns allowed. In fact, DeJean has not surrendered a passing touchdown in 385 coverage snaps as a slot cornerback.
That's why we like to keep him in there. You know, obviously when we're in base, he plays corner, you know, so that tells you we think he's one of our 2 best corners. And the nickel, we put him at the nickel spot because he plays that very, very well, and it's an important position.
Still kind of crazy. I mean, it's been almost 2 years now, I know, but still kind of crazy to have 2 guys from the same draft that are playing as well as Coop and Q. Not telling you anything you didn't already know, but Quinyon Mitchell is locked down. He's allowing just 4.9 yards per target, which is the lowest among corners who have been targeted at least 50 times. And he's got a defensive passer rating of 62.7, which is the 3rd lowest. And then just like Coop, Q hasn't allowed an opponent a passing touchdown in 510 coverage snaps this season, despite covering 4 of the top 7 NFL wide receivers in receiving touchdowns. Think about that. Mind you, a lot of this has been done despite the Birds struggling to get consistent pressure earlier in the season. Again, we got a bunch of dogs on the defense, which is why I can say the Eagles are never out of it. Now, for the offense, we did get a bit of an unexpected update when it comes to Lane Johnson, after Jeff McClain reported that Lane will need another week before returning to the Eagles lineup, which I've kind of said all along, no need to rush it if you don't have to. Get your rest, get right, make sure there's no re-injury. Anyway, as for the other Eagles updates, here's the latest injury statuses. So aside from the Lane Johnson news, you see Jalen Carter and Landon Dickerson both were DNPs. Now, Jalen Carter, not a surprise, he's not going to play against the Raiders, barring anything crazy or miraculous, but not going to play against the Raiders. Landon Dickerson was a limited participant on Wednesday, and now no participant, but it's listed with a calf/rest. So that gives me some optimism that he will actually play on Sunday. However, you see Fred Johnson with the ankle injury and listed as a limited participant, which Jeff McClain even said means he got injured on Wednesday's practice with an ankle injury. Here's the thing, either way you look at it, the Eagles are probably going to be out at least 2 offensive linemen, which possibly was the reason that the Eagles decided to open the practice window for rookie tackle Cameron Williams. Although, yes, if we're keeping track, Howie has done that in the past for Myles Hinton and another rookie as well, and didn't do anything besides allowing them to go back on the IR like Willie Lampkin and Myles Hinton, who have to be there for the rest of the year. Anyway, for the Raiders, the second straight day, Geno Smith did not practice due to his right shoulder and back injury, and Kenny Pickett is even more in line to start on Sunday. That is basically a lock. Also, a little bit of minor good news for the Raiders in this sense that Maxx Crosby did return back to practice. Remember, we've been dealing with the knee injury. He is practicing, and also Maxx lines up almost exclusively against the right tackle, so mentioning the fact that Fred Johnson suffered an ankle injury, Lane Johnson will not play, probably going to be looking at a Matt Pryor option at right tackle. Yeah, I don't like it any more than you do, but we'll keep you posted. Things could change between now and the game. Remember, Saturday I'll have you covered for the full game preview, Eagles, Raiders, who's in, who's out, injury updates, picks and plays, all that. Make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment, get your chance there. I'll catch you on the next one. This has been the Philly Special.